Thank you so much. You already introduced me, but I'm just going to go ahead and tell the parents a little bit about myself. My name is Riffat Rehman, and I'm a speech and language pathologist based in North Texas, where I run my private practice. Whenever I do a workshop or I sit in a presentation like this or in a support group, there are two ways I connect to my audience as a professional, of course, but also as a mother. I have a son who is on spectrum and he's 21 years old. And so whenever I talk to other parents, it's not that I'm talking to my clients or it's not that I'm talking to my patients. It's like talking as a mom to another mom, talking as a parent to another parent. So I love to combine both of these experiences. And that was the main reason I opened up this practice, to be able to connect to the parents directly instead of going through the school district or going through other red tapes. And I am so honored to be part of the MUHSEN School Support Team, as well as the fact that they have now given me this opportunity to present one of my most favorite topics, which is using multimodality approach to facilitate communication. As a speech pathologist, of course, that's my main area of work with students, but it also is one of the most basic component when we are working with special needs kids, to be able to communicate, to help them communicate and receptively and expressively basically facilitate them so that they are able to understand and express in a variety of ways. So I'm gonna go ahead and let me see. Yes, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of go a little bit of on what we are going to be talking about in the whole presentation. Basically, what we'll be talking about is what is multimodality, how does it relate to communication, why should we use it, what are the benefits of using this approach, and what is the best way we can incorporate it when we are working with our children at home or at in community or during the playtime. So I'll be going over all of those things. So first of all, what is multimodality? So as the name says, basically multi means a lot, variety, and modality is the methods. So basically different methods of approaching a certain task. To me, it's like it's a concept on how you can, like I said, approach a task, learn things, or present things, or communicate, which in this presentation, it's going to be mainly about how we can facilitate communication, teaching them communication, and having them express themselves using this concept. And this concept actually is based off of it's kind of like a model which has been very referenced and had become popular recently about our learning styles. And I have put this link at the bottom. You guys can, or I can post it as well. That's where you can go and read a little bit more about it. But basically, it's the way we learn things, which is visual, when we see something, or auditory or oral when we are hearing something, reading and writing. We learn through when we read and when we write. That's how we express. And tactile is the when we touch something, or it's kinesthetic. So the K is actually for, I wrote tactile, but it's actually K for kinesthetic. So, but mostly in our special needs industry, we use more of the tactile. So I went ahead and put it that. So we all learn in different ways, but it's not just one way. Most of us learn in more than just one way. There's a combination of ways, there are combination of ways in which we receive information or give information or present information. So that is a little bit of the visual of how the work presents itself. The first one is, as you can see, the child is seeing, and then when we listen and reading and writing and the touching, all these combined together are, they make a multi-model approach to learning. And we are going to be talking about how we can put all these together to teach communication. And like I said, how does multimodality relate to communication? So I wanted to go on over on that too. So it's very basic. The communication is, in a nutshell, just sending and receiving a message. Somebody tells you something, you receive it, and then that is the first part of the communication. And then after that, we go over, like, we reply or we present or express. But sometimes when we are working with our kids or even with our clients, we have to be mindful of the fact that the communication needs to be meaningful. And I'm going to go over the meaningfulness of the communication later as well. And it has to serve the purpose of reducing the frustration. It's hard for children to express themselves or to even understand. So we have to reduce that frustration. That's why we talk about the multi-model method. And it's not supposed to exhaust us. We are supposed to save energy when we are able to send message in an easier way, in a way that is basically causing us less toll. It's going to be a more pleasant experience. And I'm going to be going over all those things. When I give examples, you'll understand it, but I just wanted to kind of go over what my basic stance is. So how does multimodality and the communication go together? So the main goal of any intervention, whether we are working with our kids at home, whether we are working as a professional with children in school during their playtime, any kind of therapy that we need for our children has one main goal, and which is learning. That's all we're trying to do. We are trying to teach them skills. For us, it's teaching. For them, it's learning. And a very important prerequisite for learning is communication. And there are different steps. I went over a very basic thing, sending and receiving message, but it's a lot more complicated, like being able to receive the message when the input is there. How does it go inside you? Being able to receive message and comprehend it. You may receive a message, you may not know what it means, and that defeats the purpose of that message if you're not able to comprehend it. And then even if you comprehend it, how are you going to retain it? And children with disabilities have these little steps which are compromised. They may comprehend, but they may not be able to retain it. So when we introduce or incorporate this method, that is the reason behind that we are providing them with different opportunities and different modalities and different methods, so that we can give them a sort of like a platform, or I would even call it a toolkit that they can pull from and be able to receive and comprehend and retain the message. And then comes the feedback, and then comes how they are gonna reply to that. So that's how the multimodality and communication go together, because we are teaching them how to learn. And in order to learn, we cannot learn something if we don't know how to follow direction. And if we cannot follow direction, if the information that's provided to us is not according to our skill. So that is basically the whole crux of my presentation. So, sorry. Oops. All right. So my next slide is why should we use it? We all have different learning styles and or like we're talking about, we all have different modes of communication. We have children who are able to use speech. There are children who are able to use sign language. There are children who are able to use speech, but not able to understand the subtleties of speech. So there's so many different levels of communication that we are talking about when we talk about our special needs individuals. So, and they also, just like everybody else, have different learning styles. And when we use different modes of providing that input, we are stimulating different parts of the brain, and we process a picture differently than we process a text. We process sound differently, different from when we process when we are actually touching the object. So all these things, we are stimulating different parts of the brain, and the goal is for them to come together and make sense to the learner. So in children with disabilities, that is exactly what we need to do. We need to be able to tap on all the resources that are available. If a child can't hear, we have to present with something else. If a child cannot speak, we have to give her a different mode of expression. If a child cannot read, we have to make sure we're presenting the text, or we're presenting the message in a way that the child is able to understand and comprehend and retain it. So a lot of children, just like I said, have different, they may be hearing impaired, they may have a visual impairment. Sometimes the children are not able to have the right motor skills to do sign language. So we just have to look at what is the best way for us to give them a way to communicate. And even in children, like there are many children with autism. My own son, I would say his pretty much all these basic work model things are intact, but he has a huge speech delay. There are children with Down syndrome who can talk, who can read, but and they're able to touch and they're able to hear, but still they are unable to comprehend and express. So even with kids who have all these work compatible capacities available in their system, we still need to provide them with this multimodality and give them this toolbox or toolkit so that they can develop functional communication and learn things. So what are the benefits of multimodality? It definitely facilitates learning. If child is not able to read, he'll look at the picture. We can give them, we make schedules with pictures only. We make schedules with words only. We can, we have timers on, where it can speak and say, okay, it's time to do this, because that's the way they understand or they're receptive to that kind of a mode. It helps generalization. It's kind of like, a 2D versus a 3D thing. A flat 2D picture may not be able to tell you what a Lego piece looks like, but when a child holds it, it's like a different experience. It helps the transfer of one kind of information to another, and then it's assimilated and it's synthesized, and the children are able to create a big picture, a complete picture. And it was just a small example of seeing Lego and being able to feel Lego, but the point is, when we put all these multimodalities together, the learning experience is much more different than just providing them with one kind of an input. And a really fun thing is that when we do this, we might be able to stimulate a part of brain that we didn't know existed. We might be able to create a profile of the learner, of the children that we are working with. Oh, this is how she learns best, or this is the best way to teach this certain task. the pictures work better, or the text works better, or maybe we need to add a video. So things like those also become available for them and for us to explore. And they sometimes, kids really find it fun to have another, I mean, I work with children and I see a spark in them sometimes when I provide with something that they can really they are connected to right away. Oh, this is how we can communicate. Oh, that's how I understand. So it's a really nice way to basically play around and see what works best for which child. And again, it provides huge flexibility. If you are unable to say something, or if you're tired, you don't want to say, you can use a sign language for like more or things like these, and we should be able to accept it. And then it's also very important because it makes individuals and children with special needs very receptive to all kinds of modalities. When my son was little, we used to have the picture schedule for him. And I made sure that that was not the only way we were talking about a schedule. Today, we can write his schedule on a sticky note. I can put it on the fridge, and he is able to understand it. I sometimes put his schedule on his phone, his to-do list. He's able to understand it. We have a whiteboard. He puts it up there. Sometimes he writes it himself there. So we gave him all these different ways that he could express himself, that he could understand. And it's very important because sometimes kids just get stuck. That's the only picture I'm going to relate to when I am talking about my schedule, or this is the only way I'm going to be able to follow directions. So to keep on providing that different mode is very important, and it helps them transition easily. It helps them open their mind to different kind of knowledge, information. And you know, a real life example is of COVID-19. We can definitely look at it and see how, you know, when it started, all of us, a 5-year-old child going to kindergarten to an 85-year-old grandparent having to use technology, especially the older generation who never used technology, they ended up using, you know, FaceTime or Zoom meetings to see, to talk to their kids or to talk to their family. So it's, you know, my mom just like, I'm never going to use it, but she ended up using it because she had to talk to my kids. She had to talk to me. And you know, their businesses who said this is not the kind of company where you would work ever out of home, but you know, we are into it for almost 2 years, and businesses still not all of them have opened up, and it has also opened up a new way of communication, if you will. It has opened a lot more avenues for people to interact with each other, to run business. So I'm not saying that virtual education is best. That's not my point. My point is that when there was a challenge, we were able to respond to it differently, and we were able to stimulate different parts of our brains. And everybody of every age was somehow able to get something out of it, benefit from it. And it has become a new way. So that's exactly what we're doing when we're teaching our kids different ways of learning, when we are providing them with different modalities, is that you never know what might spark with them. So that's an important thing, how to approach. First of all, you yourself have to understand the importance of it. If you're open to using multimodality, your kids are gonna be able to benefit from it. We have to try, we have to challenge our kids. And again, like I said, COVID-19 and everybody is on Zoom and we are able to do it. So our kids should be able to do it too. And giving the Zoom example, my son and my clients, we had to teach them a new way. There were different steps: opening your iPad or opening your Chromebook, finding the email, clicking on the link, knowing how to keep yourself on mute. So these are all different steps they learned, which is different from going to school, sitting in a class. which is good, which is bad. That's not what I'm arguing. But what I'm saying is like we were able to we were able to all go along with what was needed at what time. So we do have to try, but we have to be open to it ourselves. And I'm saying that because a lot of times parents are, most of my clientele is on the spectrum, and quite a few of them are nonverbal. And it has taken years for parents to finally understand that it's okay for the child to use a device or use sign language or use text. So basically, that resistance is what I'm talking about. If you have a child who's newly diagnosed, it's my request to be open to all sorts of concepts in communication. And if you have an older child, you have never used it, it's never too late. We are all learning. You never know what kind of part of the brain you might stimulate, especially in recent years when we have a lot of more technology. I remember, I think it was maybe 20 years ago, I was sitting with in one of the waiting rooms in some place, and the lady said that her daughter was never able to talk, but we gave her a laptop and she is able to type everything. And we never knew that that 15-year-old girl knew so much. And that's amazing, that a child who never talked, who you thought never had anything to express, was able to write monologues and write paragraphs. So it's, you never know what part of brain you're stimulating. So even, so for adults, definitely do try everything and do give them different ways of stimulation. So there are a lot of ways you can incorporate this method and combine and present it. But the one more important thing that I want to say is that when I'm talking about multimodality and communication, it's not only the receptive language. I see that parents are okay when we tell them that this is how the child can learn. This is how the child comprehends. Show him picture and he'll learn better, or show him text only, or add the video or the audio, and it's that's the way he's going to learn or she's going to learn. What we see a lot of resistance is when it comes to expression. All of us, and including me, my son is 21. When he was 3 or 4 years old, and I was told that PEX is a good idea, I was like, no, I want him to talk. We are all traditional people. We love the traditional way of talking, and we expect and we want our kids to talk that way. So, I mean, I had a hard time kind of crossing that bridge. Like, I don't know if we need an outcome device, or I don't think I want the cards. I want him to talk. So I was okay on him receiving the information in a different way, but I was not okay having him to express himself other than speech. It was a short phase. I got over it, but I do see that phase stays with many parents for a long time, and we end up wasting a lot of time. We can use that time to help children learn things. If we don't give them an alternate way of expression, we are creating a lot of frustration, and self-esteem is hurt because they know they can do it, and we are just, it's the very common example is, do you want cookie? If the child says yes, that's enough. If the child says thumbs up, that should be enough. We are going to ask him question 20 times a day. We don't want our child to give a complete answer. I want cookie, please. We don't want him repeating that robotic sentence 10 times a day, 20 times a day. So it's okay if he nods. That means you sent him a message and he responded. If your child says thumbs up, that means she said yes. And that should be end of it, move on, so that it's a toll on her to have to say the whole thing. So those are the kind of the resistance, or I don't want to call it stuck, where parents get stuck, but that is the kind of flexibility I'm asking from parents to not only to be flexible when when we are teaching them, but also when they are expressing. So this approach should be equally open to our kids for their receptive and expressive vocabulary. If they are sitting somewhere and if they want something, if they have a card, they can use it. They don't have to use words. And of course, that doesn't mean we need to make our kids lazy and all that, and I'll go over that in a little bit. But for now, the point is that let's be open to this concept, both for receptive and expressive. It helps them with their social skills, of course. They can sit among people, among their peers, and be able to interact if we have given them different ways of interaction. A lot of time it helps behavior modification. A child is not able to understand why I'm doing this unless we show them a video, maybe make a video of the child when he's or she's having a tantrum, maybe, or when she's very happy, show them like, this is, how the good mood looks, and this is how we have that time. So learning new skills, of course, that's the whole thing. We learn new skills and we have to include all those. Functional living skills are very important. For example, making recipes instead of just showing this is how we do, you can make a book of recipe or make a video of recipe, show them a YouTube of something or make a YouTube of your own when you're making a certain food for them, cleaning up, and this is all functional and independent living skills where we can teach our kids using all those different methods. Safety, it's very important for them to give alternate ways of expressing when they are in danger. Leisure, of course, playing games, board games, we should be able to provide them with the facilitation on how they can actually sit down and play a game. And then academics, of course, is the biggest, it's used in academics anyway. So this is a book. So I'm just going to go over some of the activities that we can kind of in examples of things that you guys can do. So this is a very busy spider book, and it's a little flap book. You can get it from anywhere, and I'm sure you must have seen it many times. We can read this book, and that's one way of, or the child can look at the book, and that's one way of giving the information to child. Now we can add the 3D models of little toys, and that gives them a sense of touch as well, and they're able to really look at that. We can add a YouTube video while we're reading the book, holding them toy, pause the video, show them the toy, show them the book, or just do the video and the toys. It really has helped my children, my clients, so much when I use this thing instead of just reading a book. And this is my personal experience. The learning goes up right away when they are able to look at a video. And the video, the one that I have over here, has the subtitles. It has sounds of the text, and it also has sounds of the animal sounds, the moo and the ba. And when you combine that with the animals in hands and the physical paper book, it really is a great experience for them, and they love it, and they learn it. They learn from it. Similarly, with the Very Hungry Caterpillar, you can read a book, you can show them the video, and you can have them use the toy food. Playing the board games, it's so important. We were talking about the social skills. Board games is taking turns, is following steps. It's like winning and losing, and a lot of things that are required to play the board game. And it's also a very important game because it's also a very important aspect, because kids feel included when they sit down and play with somebody else. And if we are not playing a game because, oh, he doesn't know how to play or he wouldn't know what to say, that's a shame. We can use, it's something that I make for my kids. It's basically, I just fold a paper and I draw an arrow on one side, and on the other side, when I'm sitting, I am on the your turn side, and when the little child is sitting, it's my turn side. So we just slide that paper and the child looks at it from this side, it says my turn. He can read it. And even if he can't, I point to it and they associate that when I'm pointing, it's to that part of the page, it's their turn. And then they slide it to my side, or initially I do it, I slide it to my side, it's my turn, and I have them say your turn. So things like these, it's nothing fancy. It's just a piece of paper that I fold and I draw, and then the kids right away like this thing. Even when they are not able to read, they have a system. Okay, I do this and it's my turn. So it helps them to play a game with two people. And when you have more people, you can add more arrows and make a bigger page and say, you can name it's mom's turn or my brother's turn. And for those of you who have kids who use an Outcome device, I mainly work with Proloquo to Go. This is my interface for Zingo. So whose turn, and it's for a child that's his level at this time. We're at this level at this time, but I can just add yes and no, like over here. I don't have to go through this whole thing, but the child is at a certain level. We do whose turn, my turn, your turn. I made a match. Is it a match? Yes and no. What do we do at our turn? We slide. Or do you have this certain the chip? So if you have played Zingo, you probably know what I'm talking about. But yes, no questions are very important, and they, you can just even target those questions when you're playing with your children. Candyland. Let's play Candyland. I got, you can see that they are colors. In Candyland, you get little cards which have different colors, and you can say, I got red. Whose turn? What did you get? I got 1 blue. So some of the cards have 2 blue squares. If you have played the game, you probably know some of the cards have 1 blue square or 1 orange square. So they can say, I got 1 blue, or I got 2 blue. And then to reciprocate, when I pick, I say, look what I got. And then they say, you got 2 blue. So just with the board game and with the cards, we were not going anywhere. So I had to make this interface for Candyland, and it works really well. If your child is verbal and you don't have to use Proloquo to Go, but still, you can write these things. You can maybe have a couple of sticky cards, maybe 5 or 2 only, or 10. And then every time you can show that card and say, okay, that's what you ask, that's what is the answer. And after some time, they kind of understand. It's not for life, but these are the ways so that the kids can actually participate and be able to be part of the group and feel better about themselves. That yes, we can play. But see how we are making, this is not only for receptive, but also we are accepting that they can present their expression in a different way too. You can use quiet sign instead of saying, be quiet, stop yelling, stop screaming. You can just show a quiet sign. That saves you energy, that saves them energy. When you're in mosque or library, you can say quiet time. And I'm sure a lot of you guys, my clients use it too, and a lot of you use it too. But I noticed that we don't use it enough. We should have, a lot of times you can have all these cards in a key ring, just little squares, and use them when it's time to kind of let's go, or yes or no, things like these. It helps them. It really, it really is, I would again, I think I've used that word so many times, but it does provide them with a toolkit, you as well as, and your children as well. Yes, no is one of the very common goals that I work with, and it's one of the goals that has been neglected a lot. Every time I ask parents, oh yes, he knows how to say no. Well, does the child know how to say yes or no in context? Their preferential question, are you a boy? There are, there are factual questions, are you a boy? And there are preferential questions, do you want cookie? So yes, no question has so many ways of replying. I mean, you can just see that all these symbols mean either yes or no, and they're all different. So it's perfectly okay to nod head or shake head, thumbs up, thumbs down, show them a sign of yes, no, and you should accept it. And, you know, it's done on their part that, okay, we're able to do it. Teaching pronouns. Many times I've put, I don't know if you can see, but it's like a letter that I write on sticky note which says I, and I just, you know, either put a glue on an old shirt. Sometimes you can paint I on one of their shirts that they can put on top. For therapy, I keep it. Or just use a permanent marker in an old shirt, and we use it I, and then for others they can use you. Sometimes I put that on my, which says use, and we say, the child, I teach them how to say, I want this, or you do this. So it's very hard for children on spectrum or children with impressive language disorders and children with learning disabilities to understand the difference between I and you. And it's one of the very clear, concrete way of teaching. And this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say multimodality. I need help. You can, of course, you can always say, I need help, but you can give them a sign. You can give them a sign on a little stick that says, I need help. I think when you are on the phone, they can use that card or stick that I need help, instead of, you know, tantruming, or instead of yelling that I need this. So, you know, you don't have to use the speech. It can work that way too. And then functional and daily living skills, as you can see, this is what I found on Etsy, how to set a table. And these are the recipes that I was talking about. A lot of kids learn to follow the directions if they're given in this kind of way. And my own son cooks here and there. And actually he makes his breakfast every day. He makes his grilled cheese sandwich. But then other than that, we also have a little recipe book where we have pictures and words, and he's able to follow those directions. It's really enjoyable as well. Body parts, a very, very typical complaint or a typical concern from parents with autism especially, and even children who have, like I said, learning disability, Down syndrome. It's very hard to tell where they're hurting. I have a child, every time we say where you're hurting, it's my head, because he somehow related 5 little monkeys fell on the bed and bumped his head. So every hurt is head. So there are other kids who are always foot or tummy. To generalize that, use these pictures. Where is this guy hurting? He's touching his tummy. He's hurting at his tummy. Where are you hurt? On the finger. We have this teddy bear who can, you know, you can point the body parts and say, okay, where are you hurt? Put the Band-Aid and show the pictures. Take even your child, if he or she has a little bruise or something, take a picture of that bruise and show to her that this is your hand. You are hurting on your hand, not on your tummy or not on your head. So you can show these pictures like the tooth is hurting, because they are hurting and they don't know where in their body they're hurting, and it's very frustrating for them, and it's very frustrating for parents. And then emotions, very, very hard for children to be able to tell how they're feeling, how others are feeling. It's a common concern. The Google images are full of, if you type happy face, sad face, or happy boy, or hurt boy, or surprised boy, you will see a lot of them. These are from Unsplash. I use them because of the copyrights, but if you just don't use Google the images, you will find so many things that you can relate to, and you can have 10 pictures of happy kids, 10 pictures of surprise kids, and that's how we can generalize. And on top of that, there is and I'm going to send the link. There is a YouTube channel where I think they have little kids and animal sounds, kids who are laughing. I mean, I showed the other day, I showed one of my clients, he wasn't understanding what laughing is. And I showed him a video of a little child who was laughing and laughing, and he got it right away. It's because there was sound, there was a child moving instead of just a 2D picture. So that kind of really, like I said, stimulated a different part of his brain. And once he understood laughing, he was able to understand a couple more emotions. We're still working on it, but I'm happy that we were able to find something. Social stories are really important. To-do lists, you can do it on the phone, you can do it on, like I told you about my son, on a sticky note, on iPad, on anything, have the children put on timers for themselves. We have this perpetual calendar that our son, every morning, the first thing he does, he changes the date and the day. And I mean, Alexa is pretty good. Google Maps we use a lot with their son. We tell him, okay, type and then see where we're going. As I'm driving, he tells me go right, go left. The technology has helped us so much with so many things. I mean, he's looking at the street names and then he says, okay, we make a right on this street. And then it shows on the phone that what street we're making right on. This is all multimodality. He is in that situation, he's reading it, he's seeing it. So the time timer app is really good, or we can, just have the kids set timer. Otherwise, have them take their selfie, have them take pictures of other people. It's, I mean, the technology has helped so much with so many things. And it has definitely a way of stimulating brains. So just a small sort of like word of caution when you're using these. I know I'm running out of time, so I'm going to try to wrap it up. But when you're using the multimodality, just be sure that you're not overstimulating or overwhelming your child. Don't bombard your learner with like first the picture and then the video. It becomes too much. And use them interchangeably. Try one thing and then see if that works. And I want to tell you one thing, that when we present children with different variations or different methods, we are going to see a lot of different kind of responses. Some of I have two clients who never get interested in it the first time. I know that it's the third session that I'm going to get their interest. They keep on absorbing, and by the third session, they're like, yes, we like it. Some of them might find so overstimulating, but still use it. Still use it in a, maybe tone it down and use it again. They might love it right away. There are kids who are like, wow, just like I was showing about, just like I was talking about showing that child a video of the happy child, a laughing child. And it was like, yes, that's what happiness means. So basically use the modalities interchangeably. But my most important thing is accept the mode that your child is giving you. Accept the answer. It's not about making them lazy. It's not about just being stuck that she or he has to use words. Of course, we want them to use words. I'm a speech pathologist. That's my main goal. But, it's important to facilitate them as well, to give them a sense of feeling good about themselves. And yes, we are able to do it and we are accepted because we used a different modality. It doesn't mean that our answer did not get through. So, this is, these are some of the references. So this was pretty much, like I said, it's one of my most favorite topics to talk about. And I love convincing parents that we have to use these modalities to teach our kids so that they can learn. Thank you so much. And And, if you guys have any questions,